I think a friend of mine, Max Attack, who comments on yours a lot too, Max Isaac.
Yeah.
Owns a handful of
Yeah.
affiliates in the Boston area. Yeah, CrossFit Tilt. And he didn't like that you weren't as
direct.
Specific or direct either.
Well, let me say something to Max.
He's really, really worried about being canceled.
I'm not at all worried about being. I'm uncancelable, to be quite honest. But
let's test that today.
Welcome to the best hour of their day podcast with your hosts, Jason Fernandez
and me, Jason Ackerman. With more than 20 years in the business,
as both coaches and affiliate owners,
our passion is to help create world-class affiliates
and coaches by building
better boxes. Welcome to
the best hour of your day.
Welcome back to the best hour of their day. Fern, Ackerman, special guest, James Hobart.
Going to be the worst hour of their day now.
This is going to be...
We've been talking about rebranding, so this is a good opportunity to talk about it.
I've already had the best hour of my day because I squatted with James.
It's true. You guys did throw some beef on that bar.
And he beat you, and you said he wouldn't. Yeah, Jason took
He knew.
$350 for a double.
That was a lifetime PR for a double for sure. He knew. When it comes to squatting, that's the only time Fern kind of concedes.
For now, until I get fixed.
He does have a hernia.
And then he dunked on you.
And a torn meniscus.
And then
I did dunk on you.
How high is that hoop?
6
It's
feet.
at least 11 feet.
What's regulation? 10?
Oh, you're so bad at sports.
It's 10 foot, right?
You're so bad at sports, yes.
And is female 9 foot?
There's 3 quarters in a basketball game.
Yep. 2 and 4 halves.
Anyway, we hit CAP programming. Is that CAP programming today?
That is CAP.
We're at CrossFit Mafia. They follow CAP.
Yeah.
This is your box right now. I mean,
Well, it's
now
not my gym, but it's my home gym now.
this is your
Currently
spot.
trains here.
Yeah.
Currently train here. How you living close by these days?
I live 15 minutes from here.
So you
So
pass
why
other
were you
gyms.
late for class?
It's just working, man. It's overslept. I overslept.
He's busy doing
Good.
the CAP
It's good.
programming.
He's just like leadership. I lead from the front. Just make
Exactly.
an entrance.
The reason I came in late, and there was actually purpose to it, is because I know Jason always talks so big on the Instagram about what to do with people who come in late.
Make them do burpees.
I wanted to see how it was handled.
What was your evaluation of that?
I was just ridiculed.
Perfect. That's what we recommend. That's what we recommend.
That's part of Affiliate U.
Yep.
We have some jokes in there that they can use. They can to ridicule people.
But largely it is to embarrass your clients.
Yeah, I was proud to see that you followed through on what you said you would do.
So we're gonna lead by example.
The test I gave you, but you passed.
So, Fern, James comments pretty often on my Instagram.
Mostly because he's looking at what a disaster it is. It's like a bad car wreck. You can't look away.
I did reach out to him. This might have been like a week ago, and I was like, because you typically say one of two things. That's a good one, or like this is dumb.
Or I'll just say like a
Yeah. But you say
Jomo,
that's a
give him
good
the
one.
Jomo.
You gave me a that's a good one a couple days. I don't remember what the post was.
It was the best one you've done, and it was drink more water. I thought you nailed it. I felt like that's good
Great.
advice.
That was really, really solid. Yeah.
Do you remember any that you completely disagreed with, or maybe not disagreed with, but you're like, that's actually, I'm mad, or like he's dumb?
Not mad, but I can tell there are some times when you're directing your attack at somebody or buddies specifically, and you kind of hold back. There was one you said about like people sharing advice with other affiliate owners, and they're not in a position to be sharing that advice or haven't had the experience to share that advice. And I felt like there were specific people you were targeting.
I see. So you'd rather.
And I wanted you to wanted more.
Say it.
I think a friend of mine, Max Attack, who comments on yours a lot too, Max Isaac.
Yeah.
Owns a handful of
Yeah.
affiliates in the Boston area. Yeah, CrossFit Tilt. And he didn't like that you weren't as
Direct.
specific or direct either.
Well, let me say something to Max.
He's really, really worried about being canceled.
I'm not at all worried about being. I'm uncancelable, to be quite honest. But
let's test that today, right
We're
now.
Gonna put that.
I mean, I've gone down the white supremacy path, and no one canceled me. So let me let me speak to Max directly. That's a bitch move, dude. and I'm saying it because you're upset at me for not calling people out, yet you didn't call me out.
He called you straight out on the Instagram. I think he was like actively commenting on it.
He comments. I mean, I don't know Max. We may have met, so sorry, Max, if we've met. That was like Tosh yesterday. Like, he just was ripping people.
It was great.
And
made my heart warm.
But actually, that made me think about Tosh because you say I wasn't direct, and Tosh was super direct.
Yeah.
And I like that about him. So I'm going to... I did say to Fern, we had a little bit of a beef with some people. When I say we, Fern kind of gets looped into it because I'm the one creating the beef, and because he's my partner, he kind of gets associated with it. But
that's the way it works.
Well, no, we were pretty aggressive in that, but I could be better. I felt like there needs to be a bad guy in the CrossFit world, and that's us.
Yeah, Adrian Bosman and I used to always talk about
guys?
this. The CrossFit Games needs a heel.
Yeah, a heel. And but we can
who
be
like comes down and like pulls Pat Vellner's shorts down and like sprinkles itching powder in somebody's pants.
There's no heel in the broadcasting world.
No.
Like there's always
not broadcast.
Who would you say?
Yeah.
Who do you got?
I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna be indirect.
Okay. But like you watch WWE.
I've been on this person's podcast.
Yeah. You watch WWE quite often. You watch WWE and there's like the good guy broadcaster, the bad guy. And you need that you just need like the person asking tough questions, pushing people in that space. But in the overall space, we are the bad guys, but almost like, remember the 90s, like Stone Cold was the bad guy, but people loved him. And that's where we are. Because you're the bad guy that's like standing up to the authority or pushing your agenda because it's the right thing.
You're the people's champ.
The people's champ. We're the Rock.
If you're some man, what the Rock?
Katie.
He's not a bad guy, though.
But there were plenty of times he was the bad guy, but he would get cheered.
Okay.
I think his character morphed into the face.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we are the heels in the broadcasting CrossFit world.
But
But the reason I think it's good to be a little more specific is it'll force you to be a little more articulate about it. I think it's easy to be like, oh God, all these dickheads out here who just haven't owned gyms but giving gym advice,
Right.
But if you're like, hey, I don't know,
Bob.
I don't know any of those guys.
Bob.
Yeah, no, I'll take that feedback. One thing we like to do, as you know, as a longtime part of
Like,
seminar
hey,
staff.
that Jason Ackerman with his whiteboards and his shitty handwriting. Gosh, that
Do you
guy
think my
gets
handwriting is shitty?
No, I said it's gotten a lot better. That's something I've
it's
noticed.
just going
Definitely
slower.
better than
Handwriting
mine.
is really just slow down.
Every year when
It's
I get my
technique and intensity.
every year when I get my eval, they're like, "You write like a sociopath."
You write that
Like a
when
sociopath.
Fern gave his first lecture at one of the summits we were at. He's like, "What feedback do you have for me?" I was like, "Well, you write like a psychopath." So there's that one. That was really it. The lecture was great. No one can read your writing.
Looks like a barnyard chicken.
Yeah, I was writing with my non-dominant hand, basically.
Oh.
So
But a lot of them also are. I'm generalizing because I do want people to look at it from a broader perspective, and not only in the CrossFit world. But I appreciate any comment.
Why can't you give affiliate advice without having owned an affiliate?
I think
Right? 'Cause
anybody can give advice.
you know what I'm saying.
Right. No, I think you can. What I think becomes problematic is just blurting out generalities, which is not what people need. So you could give, I don't know. We've been guilty of it at times. Like, hey, punch cards, don't sell punch cards. It's a stupid idea. However, I would back that up and I'd be like, 90% of the time I would hold true to that statement. But there are geographic locations where if I look at the business, we pop the hood on and I'd be like, nope, you should definitely sell punch cards. That's a significant portion of your revenue based on the demographic, the transient nature of where you are located. But that's my beef, is it needs to be more specific. It can't just be like, do this. And I'm like, well, there's at least a half a dozen scenarios off the top of my head where that would be a horrible idea.
But that's the salesy hook, right? Like nuance doesn't get clicks or likes or sells. It's like you got to say that crazy thing. And then
I
you
disagree.
reel 'em in.
I think that used to be the case, but I think Joe Rogan's a perfect example. He's the king of nuance at this point, and that's where people go to have like, okay, I want to hear a full thought, not just like a partial thought. And I think that's where largely where we try to live is I prefer to live in a full thought world, not just like hey, here's a good little Instagram clip that's not a full thought, that doesn't create any sort of clarity. It actually creates ambiguity, which I think is really annoying.
But the thing is, even a full thought on Instagram is not a full thought because you have X
Right.
amount of characters, a picture. You know, I can really dive into some of the concepts I want, take 15, 20 minutes. No one would pay attention to it. So you need to put something out there that draws attention, good or bad, gets a reaction.
There's definitely a strategy there. But like last night, we were bantering via text. There was a ton of non-full thoughts in there. Yeah, right? And we went down the road.
Can I tell James what I said to you? I was like, you guys were texting us like 9 o'clock at night, and it stopped for a moment.
Well,
and
can we just talk about why I just texted, hey, what time we started tomorrow?
Yes. And then a couple of jokes started, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be the guy in this three-way thread to keep this going. It's late. And then I was
9
like,
o'clock, it's late.
It was 9 o'clock. Like, I was chilling out. And then I looked back at my phone, and there was like 50 texts between the two of you.
Definitely not 50, but
There's like 20 talking about Frito-Lays and Coors Light. And I was like, these two are the ones doing it. I was trying to be the more mature one.
You were.
yeah.
And here we are.
And here we are. No, but like so, there's a lot of that in the programming world, which is like you should never do this or you should never do that. Instead of explaining, there's a time and a place for it, but educating people, which is, I think there's a difference between trying to get people's attention for the sake of getting some sort of notoriety versus like, hey, here's a thought because I want to finish the thought on a different forum, which is kind of the way we use Instagram. This is a full thought, long form podcast,
Which is why I can't get canceled, because people know that I don't mean harm by a lot of the things I do or say. I'm coming from a genuine and authentic place. So I think that's why.
Or maybe they just pity you so much and they're like, that guy's not a threat.
That could be, which I'll
Definitely
take
not
also.
threatening.
But I want to go back to your question and answer it a little more directly. If you're not a box owner, you can give advice. The issue that I have more often than not is those same people are not giving CrossFit advice. So it's like, hey, you need to have more personal training. You need to do this or that. And it's like, that's a cool idea. That's not CrossFit. So stop giving CrossFit affiliates advice that doesn't help a CrossFit affiliate. And that's where you and I spoke a little bit, I think, offline too.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you there. And I do think one of the things we've seen fall by the wayside is this idea that you can't run a successful business based on group classes.
Exactly.
And that you can't do a group class in a way that is virtuous. And I don't think that's the case. And I could be totally naive to that. And after whatever years of experience, I could be way off the mark and be super biased. But I'm definitely more excited when I hear advice for CrossFit affiliates about, hey, how do we do this group class thing well? And I've seen lots of affiliates, not lots, I should say that. I've seen a handful of affiliates out there who are excellent at making money in doing everything but running a good group CrossFit class. And I think because people see that success, they're like, well, you can't do the group class model, so you have to only do all of these other tertiary revenue drivers. And those could certainly help. And I talked to you about a lot about this. I don't have a ton of business experience. I've seen a lot. But that's something I always think about is like, how successful could this group class model be? And what are all the things, and this is what I'm interested in, what are all the things you need to do in order to make that model successful and do it really well?
Well, I think one of the fundamental breakdowns there is, and I do agree with your assessment there, that people, because you've seen other people, and by the way, I wish all those people the best. I'm not mad that they're doing successful with all these other things. Like that's a misinterpretation of my feelings with regard to the subject. My beef is that the thought now is like, oh, I have to do those things in order to be successful. And like, no, that is inaccurate and not what this person set out to do. So we've pulled them off of their, essentially not core value, but like what they started with, without actually making them really good at it. And now they're mediocre at a lot of things rather than being really, really excellent at one thing. And then start putting those other arms on around the side of it. I'm all for those things. Where I think it can create a lot of problems is if it's just mediocre and then I start diverting my time, energy, and effort onto these other things because, you know, in the sake of driving revenue, which I have no problem with money, but I think it's a flawed process. And I don't think long term it yields what people want. That's my beef with the whole thing. It's like, create something excellent and then you can attach anything you want to it.
I think the mediocrity also comes from they're encouraging people to do something they don't actually like or want to do, right? Like, so it's like, yeah, no wonder you're not great at one-on-one training because you left that industry or you didn't open an affiliate to do that, and now we're telling you that's the way to make money. We've been to 4 or 5 boxes this week alone that's that are very successful through group classes.
I would like to get your thoughts on this, James. So I've been having this thought lately that I think, and this is definitely not intentional, but I think there has been a gap between what happens at the level 1 and then going back into the affiliate and continuing to drive excellence. I have no answer to that problem currently, but I do think that if you were to look at the kind of the cohort of seminar staff people and then I walk into the average affiliate, there's an obvious gap, and that's what I think needs to be bridged. And this is kind of why we started the podcast. It's kind of why we're putting other information out is to make a little bit better conduit for knowledge transfer. And because our job should be like not the purveyors of all the expertise and just holding it in our rice bowl, but like that should be given away. Like we should be making every people better at every step of their journey, not just when they show up to level 1, not just when they show up to level 2. And I think those courses are phenomenal. I think they're the best out there. But there's obvious kind of friction points there in my experience.
Yeah, no, I think that's really astute. You know what I think is so awesome about the level 1, and this, I hope this doesn't come across as I'm saying that the level 1 coddles coaches and new athletes coming to CrossFit, because I don't think it does. But at the level 1, it's this really cool environment where the team of red shirts who are there, and even the team of the students who come into class, they're really all there to help each other. And if they don't know it yet, by the end of the weekend, that's the vibe. I mean, that really is, you have this environment where it's like regardless of walk of life, why you're there, experience level, by the end of the weekend, you now have a cohort of friends who you really realize are concerned about your well-being in terms of fitness. And I think what happens is, the other thing is that one of the best things about the level 1 is it stays inside of its lane. It's why one of the reasons I like it so much is we don't go into level 1, we don't talk about stuff that we don't know about. And we haven't experienced or trialed or tested for 2 decades on end. Now that being said, if you want to get really good at coaching people in group classes, improving their life through fitness, you could take the tools of level 1, refine those tools, continue to, as we've looked at Coach Glassman in the past, has said, once you've mastered the basics, start again and, kind of pay attention harder. Anyway, I don't think a level 1 coddles, but it's a super supportive environment. It's very narrow in its focus in terms of all of the things you might have to deal with as an affiliate owner. Now, that's not to say that the level 1 doesn't make good coaches.
Correct.
But when you go out there in the world, the level 1, we don't talk about how to run the financials of a business. And we shouldn't in that environment. And I think what happens is you have someone who steps out into the affiliate ownership world and they're like, hey, I get this group class, but maybe they don't have any of the tools to deal with the other stuff. And so, not to blow smoke, but that's kind of what's cool about what you guys are doing, and other people who have had success as an affiliate owner or small business owner in an affiliate, sharing best practices with people. But I think that's one of the big challenges. And I saw this in level 2s. I talked to people in level 2s. I'm like, hey, when was the last time you worked out? We do we work out both days at the level 2, and a lot of the people coming in are affiliate owners, and they'd be like, oh, I haven't worked out in 3 months. And this was something I didn't understand, and I had been around a lot of affiliates until I went and owned an affiliate. And I'll say this, I wasn't even the person coaching the most classes at my affiliate. I was like the welcome wagon. I'd show up, high five, I caddied people through workouts who were new, maybe throw out the trash once in a while and clean the bathroom. But it made sense to me after owning an affiliate of like what that process is like, because you become more inundated with just, I always joked, answering emails and changing toilet paper.
And I want to say 2 things to what you said. One, going back to the level 1, that was by design by Coach Glassman, right? I'm going to make you a great trainer.
Yeah.
Figure out the rest and the cream will rise to the top.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely that. And, in fairness, there's always Q&A, so, maybe not with James, but you work with Chuck, and it's like Sunday mornings, like a 2-hour Q&A. We've had those questions, but it's not part of the curriculum, if you will. And then what you just said about affiliate ownership, we deal with that all the time with our clients, and we tell them a couple things. One, put your workouts in your calendar like it was like you were training someone, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're of no use to everybody else. But bigger issue is most affiliate owners are just chasing shiny objects. That doesn't have to be the case. That's the case when you're a mess and you're disorganized. I guarantee Brentney here at Mafia works out regularly because this place seems pretty like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, no, it's a great gym, and I agree with you.
She is an affiliate client, by the way.
Yeah,
and on seminar staff, I mean, she's an excellent coach.
That was a great class.
That was a good class.
That was a well-executed heavy day, and not just because I was the strongest person in the room.
Second
strongest. The games athletes don't count on the whiteboard.
Oh, okay.
But I think the back to that point, like I said, I think the level one does exactly what it sets out to do excellently, and that's introduce people to coaching and CrossFit methodology and help give them tools to improve as coaches in a group class format and teach them CrossFit. But I don't think, going to a level one is going to make you a, pop whiz business owner. And that's because it doesn't teach you a lot of those business skills.
And it's not meant to.
Nor does it tout that it will. That's not what it's for. It's not a CrossFit affiliate owner course. It's a level one trainer course that you can walk in here and you could coach, any number of athletes, at least with moderate proficiency.
And I think, too, as an affiliate owner, like I said, in the level one, you have this environment where everyone is supportive of you and your journey. And there's definitely parameters and borders of like, hey, we're going to do this workout with thrusters at the end of the day. We'll scale you any way, shape, or form. But no, you can't go over there and pick your nose and play on Instagram. We're going to do some form of workout. I do think when you step out into that world of being an affiliate owner for the first time, it's a hard. Someone told me that owning a small business is like. I read this somewhere. They said it's like everyone's watching you run your business, and they're like, "Wow, look at that guy running his business." It's like watching somebody ride a lion. You're like, "Holy shit, that guy's riding a lion!"
You're a naughty lion. You're a naughty cat. You're a naughty cat.
And you're sitting on top of this lion, and you're like, "What the fuck am I doing on top of a lion?" And that's what it's like owning a small business. And I think that's one of the issues is you get out there. And you started with this, very simple, narrow premise, make people's lives better via fitness.
Right.
And you've lost the support of like, how do I do all this other stuff though?
Right. And that's exactly why they need coaching. And again, it doesn't have to be us. One thing that we tout is, we are for affiliates by affiliates, and we've done this, 6 times between the two of us and then some. So whether it's with us or any number of the shitty coaching out there, that's fine too. But the point is, you need that help because you are riding a lion with no experience riding a lion. It's like, okay, I've walked a dog, now I'm riding a lion.
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
Yeah.
And you've worked out, not the same thing. Let's talk a little bit about programming for a moment.
Cap. What's new with Cap?
But before we even say what's new, rumor on the street, you made $100 million for the Cap sale. Is that accurate?
$200 million.
$200 million.
Yeah, that was way more than I thought it was going to be.
Hence the full Lulu.
Yeah, hence the starred
outfit
shirt
right here. The toupee. Is this a toupee you're wearing?
Toupee.
Today?
2 toupees.
It looks a little fake,
in
but
the
I don't
hat.
think it is.
Look at the grays are
He
real.
purposely, hey, Cassandra, put a little gray in this, make it look real.
I got the Joe Biden veneers. Yep, $200 million. Morning Chalk Up didn't get all of that
most
right.
of that. Austin got most of it.
Yeah, he got most of it. Spencer most of it, and then
They got you this shirt.
Yeah, that's all I got. Now, honestly, these pants have a stitch in them. I've been wearing them for the last 4 days.
You know what? You're like Warren Buffett. You're like Warren Buffett. Same home for all these years.
Similar fitness capacity.
Yeah, exactly. You look similar.
Yeah.
Morning Chalk Up was inaccurate on that? It wasn't 200?
They didn't get everything right.
Gotcha.
That's all right. They've been known for that.
I don't want to dig Morning Chalk Up because I love Brian Friend who's over there. So
Yeah, Brian Friend, Justin, good people. They're trying. They're doing something cool.
And that's an exciting thing to have in the CrossFit space. But anyway, nope. So that's not the case. But when you see me step into a Lamborghini outside, that's definitely
Nice.
fine.
That's definitely a rental.
Yeah.
But talk to us about Cap. So you guys, that's officially been live for affiliates as far as purchase wise since January. Correct?
Yeah. Basically, ended December. Started January. But for free trial, we started a wait list back in July of 2021, and through that wait list, a lot of people signed up. It blew away our expectation. I think something to the extent of like 4,000 people signed up on the wait list, and I think the original affiliate owners. Yep, and that's one of the big things is it's for affiliate owners and for affiliates. So if you're not LOR affiliate, you can't sign up for it.
Meaning the license on
record.
Record.
Yeah. And so they started that in July, and I think the original expectation was around like 1,000 to 1,500 we expect on the wait list.
Okay.
We had 4,000 people come through, but then, of course, not everyone is like, not all 4,000 of those affiliates, because that would be a significant chunk of the affiliate market.
Right.
Some of them are just like, I want to see what this is about.
Yeah, you think about a community that's 10 to 12,000 affiliates worldwide. Like that's
it's a huge
third
portion.
of is enormous to think everybody's doing it. That would be really fun and exciting experiment, but and it was very hard to tell too. how many, what does it mean to use the program?
Right.
I would receive feedback, talk to affiliate owners. Hey, we're just trying it 2 days a week. Hey, we're following it 2 weeks behind. Hey, I just pull something out of it once in a while. Hey, we follow it every day to the letter. And so that's been a learning experience for us, because as we've gone through this CAP process, and we've said this from the start, and this is kind of businessy jargon and lingo, but we said, your feedback matters, and we want to take your feedback as a listening process for us. And for me, it really has been, and I've grown really thick skin throughout this time. My relationship with CAP is participating in the process of programming for it, managing, helping develop the content, but also the team, helping manage them and guide them in developing that content, as well as operating inside of CrossFit and working with other, this is the business term, cross-functional, working with other parts of CrossFit, whether it's our copy editing team, our media team, the EDU team, the training team, to make sure that what we're putting out there in CAP, and this is something that is familiar to me. I've worked on seminar staff a while, but make sure what we're putting out on CAP, runs lockstep with what our methodology is in terms of CrossFit.
I've long been of the opinion that I don't want to say programming doesn't matter. It does matter.
It's like religion, would you say?
It can be for sure. People get very attached to it. But
did you agree with? I don't want to derail you. I'll go back.
I didn't necessarily agree with what you said.
You don't agree with that? The program. So I put up a post that said programming is like religion.
He said it doesn't matter. He doesn't care.
I don't want us to go so far as to say it doesn't matter. I have said that. Let me apply context with regard to what CrossFit is trying to accomplish. I have always thought of the best way to make really well-rounded coaches, the vehicle for that is programming, because that's what they have to walk out onto the floor and execute on a daily basis. But it's not necessarily about the programming. And when I look through CAP resources, I look through the different variations of the workout, the different resources, the lesson planning, the video, the WOD briefs. Like there's a ton of back end. And I've said this from day one. I don't think it's about the programming. I think it's about everything that's behind the programming that would lend itself to being a knowledgeable coach when you walk out onto the floor. Because my argument would be, if I gave you, the anti-asshole workout and I didn't let you look at it at all, and I walked out there and I said, you have 5 minutes to look at this, go coach a class, my bet is that you would run a good class, regardless of what the movements were.
You're referring to James specifically.
Right.
Not you. I was going to let you rebut and hear what you have to say.
And, as we talked about with Instagram or any social media, people will argue what they read or how they interpret it. There's bad programming. Like, what does bad programming look like? A lot of redundancy, a lot of, workouts that don't lend themselves to increasing intensity.
7 parts in 1 hour.
Too much in an hour. Let's put those aside. And we all can agree that's shitty. My point was, whether it's CAP, most of the other program you would pay for.
I'll clarify on that. Shitty in the context of the format it's being delivered.
Sure, that could be. But, any of the paid-for programming, or even if somebody sat down and is like, I'm going to really look at the Glassman model of, like, GWM and mixing it up to couplets and triplets, more important than what you're actually doing is that you're showing up, being consistent with it, and pushing hard, right? Relative intensity. People can take that to whatever direction they want. Case in point, Fern and I dropped into 4 affiliates this week. We're fine. And we did kettlebell swings 2 days in a row. We've pushed quite a bit. Today we did some heavy back squats. If there's redundancy, scale, modify as needed. Just deal with it. Or just deal with it, right? Like, turns out deadlifting 2 days in a row is not the worst thing you can do. I mean, look at it's always funny to me that the same people that idolize CrossFit Games athletes and want to do what they do then set those rules of, like, because I said 40 different athletes are doing 40 different programming. They're all really fit. And some of those guys do the same thing day in and day out. I just don't think members know enough to tell you what is good or bad when it comes to programming.
Well, that's a whole different take. I think that was nicer,
but that's
better said than whatever
that's my point. You can't do that on Instagram. If I say it like that.
Really insightful theological rant yesterday.
And it's the same with religion. Look, I don't want to get canceled. All religion is the same. It's the same story told with slightly different narratives. Like
different characters.
Different characters, slightly different times, different persecutions for us Jews. Right? But at the same time, it's like, it's all the same. It's Jesus, it's God, it's Allah, whoever you're believing in. Is it any wonder that Easter, Passover, what's the one where Muslims fast for like
Ramadan.
Ramadan, all fall around the same time and have fasting involved? No, because it's all the same damn thing. Same with programming. It's constantly varied functional movements at high intensity.
And with that, we've solved all the world's problems in
But
World peace
we didn't
in
write it
29
down.
minutes.
We didn't write it down.
I got the solution. Everybody convert to Judaism and follow CAP programming. We got a better world.
Yeah, I like that.
We're doing some circumcisions live on today's show, James. Slap that baby right here.
All right.
Katie, leave the room.
Bye-bye, turtleneck. What was I going to say?
Nobody
It doesn't
knows.
matter now.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, bad programming. I think ineffective programming would be programming that doesn't help you reach the goal of whatever that
Ineffective is a
stated
good word.
goal is. I'll kind of be PC there and fence it. I think programming matters because we wouldn't spend so much time talking about it, teaching it. People wouldn't be so concerned about it if it didn't matter. To what extent it matters, I don't know. And also, if programming didn't matter, we'd all do Zumba,
Right.
Right? Because it's probably a lot easier than. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to diss anything, but I've always joked in the level 1 format. If the programming didn't matter, we would probably just do the movements we liked, maybe some functional ones. Sometimes varied, sometimes not, at like meh intensity, right? It's like the high intensity is not easy, it's challenging. So I do think programming matters. I think what's a more important question is it the only thing that matters? And I think you guys answered that, no, absolutely not. And I think if you have an excellent coach out there who is very in tune with all of the athletes in the class and what their goals are, yeah, probably anything could be on the board. But then what you're going to see that coach do is scale that class relative to ability levels or help so-and-so target the workout in a specific way to meet maybe a weakness or a goal. Therefore, they're programming and adjusting the programming. So I do think the programming matters. I don't think it's the only thing that matters. And that's something we set out to do with CAP. And I don't know if we've achieved that yet. I think about it way too much. That reminds me of that scene in The Office where he's like, Michael Scott's like, I care too much, I work too hard.
I work too hard, I care too much, and sometimes I can be too invested in my job.
Just sounds so cheesy.
Right.
I think
It's Jay's
about
biggest weakness.
Yeah,
He cares too
exactly.
much.
He cares too much.
I squat too heavy and I care
Squats
too
too
much.
heavy, he's too fit. Where was I? Oh yeah, I've never wanted CAP to just be programming. When people say, "Oh, you guys are offering programming," and it's like, yeah, programming's part of it, but it matters to me that you get some sort of coaching development tool. It matters to me that you get insight into you understand the context of it. You have tips and progressions, and so basically, what we've set out to do. And we're a long way from that, I think, but we're headed in the right direction, is I've always said I want it to be a concierge service for affiliate owners and coaches to the extent that if there's something you want to do in terms of implementation in a class, you want for nothing.
You can find it there.
You can find it there.
Yeah.
And it's not just programming. Because if you look at the content we put out, it's certainly not just programming. There's a lot more than that. And
That's what I was telling you before earlier. I was looking through it because we have it. We don't and the reason we don't use it is not because I have any issue. But Cassidy likes to program, and I'm like, well, I don't want to take that away from you. And I don't think if you got somebody there that like wants to own the product, I think that's totally cool. And we're fortunate in the fact that there's 3 red shirts at my facility, so that development is kind of baked into the cake. But for an affiliate who doesn't have somebody who wants to own that and maybe doesn't have that kind of a level of pursuit of excellence in there, then this is an amazing tool. Like looking at just the amount of volume that comes with 1 day's worth of programming hurts my brain, honestly. I think about what you guys are doing to produce that stuff, and I'm like, that's not easy to put out there.
Yeah, we put a lot of content out. It's funny when I hear you say like how much content goes out. One of the biggest things we've been looking at recently, and this is really in the weeds, is reducing it or trying to convert it to a medium that's easier for people to digest.
Right.
It's been really fun. I always thought as we put it together, I was very confident that like, hey, I feel like our class plan will speak to the best coach as well as a novice coach and somebody in between. There's a little something in there for everybody. And just through feedback sessions, chatting to affiliate owners, and anecdotally, and even through survey, I've seen feedback that say, hey, this is too much information, or this is too much for me to follow given my current level as a coach. So one of the big things we've been looking at, and this is something for me that's changed in the last 2 years, is how I view like being in a gym, coaching, programming, the experience. But how do we actually make it so we actually really do speak to coaches of, who have been doing this for as long as you guys have, give you something valuable, but also maybe someone I'm out of the level 1, this is my first week of class. what do I get out of this, and how can I use this as a compass to make this class successful for everybody in it? So we look at that a lot, and that's been a big goal of ours as well. So yeah, I'm going to keep banging that. It's not just programming drum, but
with that being said, I think your team, specifically you, Spencer, and Austin, and everybody that supports that, could take any programming out there, do what you're doing for CAP, and it would be just as effective. And some of that might be, well, this programming has 7 parts, like Fern said. We're going to make it 3 instead of 7. It's in my opinion, less about the actual workouts and more about what you're putting behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I won't argue with that too much. One of the things I've been really interested in is the fact that, let's assume we have 12,000 affiliates worldwide, and a lot of them operating with different measures of success, right? If I'm just like somebody who's retired running a garage gym affiliate, so 15 of people from my neighborhood can hang out, like my approach and vector and target is very different than someone who's starting an affiliate to make a career out of it. But that being said, I've lost my train of thought. You said 3 people, coach. Oh, me, Austin, Spencer.
I'm saying whatever the programming is,
that you could take the programming and you guys could basically apply the recipe to that.
Got it. So something I've been really interested in is you have all these affiliates worldwide probably taking this general principle of constantly varied functional movement executed at high intensity, scaled relative to somebody's ability, taking that general principle and applying it a little bit differently and having successful results in terms of physical fitness. Right. Maybe not like profits or whatever those business results are, but having successful results. What I'm really curious about now, especially as we've cast a pretty wide net in CAP in the amount of affiliates that are interacting with us and we're providing programming for, is could you get the right data set to finally figure out, like, what is the ideal level of variance? What is the, what are all the toggles that we talk about, the level 1, those elements that you can vary? Like, what should those levels be set at to actually most effectively achieve that long-term, climb toward the distant horizon of fitness? So I think about that kind of stuff a lot now, which makes me think that programming does matter. But like you said, and I think this is the point you're really getting at, is what's amazing about CrossFit, and obviously I'm towing the party line here, is that it works. I've never seen it not work. Applied poorly, I've seen it work. Applied, whatever that means. I've applied successfully and applied diligently, I've seen it work really, really well. And I think that's so amazing because it's like we're kind of stuck in this world where everybody's always looking for a quick fix. What's the simplest way to do something? And it's like, well, do 1 workout plus warm-up, cool down 4 to 5 days a week. Mix and match the movements you use. Yeah, push yourself a little harder than you would have if you weren't in a room full of people, and you will get fitter for a lifetime. Like, it's amazing to me how on one hand we desire so much, and like this idea of like, oh, I want to just find that quick fix. What's that silver bullet that does this or makes this better or helps me do X, Y, or Z? It's like, oh, we have it. But then on the other hand, it's like we want to take that thing and overcomplicate it.
Well, that's literally the conversation.
That's kind of what you're talking about in terms of programming.
And that's always my argument with people. Like, I put that post up, shitty CrossFit works, and people lose it. And I'm like, this idea that people are breaking their backs and hurting themselves in CrossFit is so old and wrong. No, I've owned 4 affiliates, Fern's owned a bunch. Like, we've coached thousands of people. I've seen people tweak something here and there, just like I've seen that happen at a 5K or on the jiu-jitsu mats. Like, if you're off your couch, there's a risk for injury. But shitty CrossFit works. Like, our mutual friend Todd and I, we were working I forget where we were, but we were watching and we were just like, I think we were at somebody's box and we're like, this is really bad. And then we were like looking, and that dude's squatting 315, that girl's doing pull-ups, so-and-so's doing that, and I'm like, shit still works.
Well, I always go back to, everybody forgets where they started in the whole process. I mean, if you go back and look at some, I could probably pull some up, and like, movement wasn't good. Like, not only was it not good, it was atrocious. It was like full internal rotation of the overhead position for an overhead squat. And we talk about this in the level 1, in the What is CrossFit lecture. I'm like, you can still get really fit because of the nature of functional movements and largely avoid injury. We're not saying that you should do that, but it's baked into the cake. They are safe by their very nature. You should also do them well. But we all started moving pretty terribly. Jay still moves terribly, right? And he's still here.
I moved terribly, squatted 350 for a double.
Right.
And I've been moving this badly for like 15 years. And I'm being fully, like, trained jiu-jitsu, like, where people are trying to hurt you. And I'm like, I've really never sat out of CrossFit for an extended period of time. Like I've had a tweak, I need to modify something, my shoulder hurts, but for 15 years I've been doing this thing.
Well, this kind of goes in line with the discussion we were having with Nicole Christensen the other day about people are trying to fix something with regard to the methodology that's not broken. And it's like, you don't need to fix it. You need to do it better. You need to, I don't think it's as much about programming as it about the application of programming. Like I can give you a tool, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's an ineffective tool. Now, this happens to be one where even if you didn't know how to use it really correctly, it's still pretty damn effective. But the argument is like, we just learn how to use it really well. Learn how to, do really good warm-ups. Learn a little bit more about variance. Learn more about movement combinations, and learn more about, periodization if you want to somehow try to loop that into your programming, maybe at a little bit broader spectrum. But learn all of those things. Like you should learn a little bit more about kettlebells and figure out how to loop those in. But learn more you don't need to change the recipe. Like you just need to play with it a little bit and learn how to apply it a little bit differently, or more specifically to the 15 different athletes in your gym. That's where I believe the disconnect is. It's like you got the tool, but you really don't know how to use it. And that's fine because it's a great tool. And that's the beauty of it, is you don't have to and it'll still work. But optimally, you should learn how to use it.
Yeah, right. It's like using the butter knife as the screwdriver.
Right.
Yeah, and on it not to sound salesy, but to return to kind of what we were talking about with Cap, that's been the goal. Like I do think programming matters, and I think it's very valuable to look at and have information on. Like, if I'm writing a program and the athletes are destroyed, or X, Y, and Z is happening, or everybody's always scaling the same movement, I should take a look at what the hell am I programming. I should also take a look at what are the coaches doing.
Right.
And in lieu of us being able to do that, and this is one of the things that frustrates me most, is like I can't just go around and see what all the coaches who are doing Cap are doing. So I could be like, hey, no, have them put their hands here.
Right.
And everything gets better. Our next best step is to try and communicate how do we give context to and help them use that tool. And like you said, that's been a huge focus for us, is to provide that context and really looking at, hey, here is today's workout, but how does today's workout fit within the rest of the week? How do we maybe take a approach that goes beyond just scaling load, volume, scaling movements, potentially take an approach to this where it gives athletes context so maybe they can kind of find their own path successfully. And that's been one of the biggest projects we've looked at and what we're continually refining, because as we've cast this wide net, there are some lines in the sand, constantly varied functional movements, execute at high intensity. Like that's our bread and butter. We're not going to step out of that methodology. But that being said, we're learning a lot about what actually goes on inside affiliates everywhere. And I thought I knew a lot. I've traveled a fair amount. I've done a seminar on just about every continent on the face of the earth.
How many seminars have you done? 300 plus?
I don't count.
Okay.
Well, we got those badges a couple of years ago. Did you do the 300? Or
well over 350, yeah.
Okay. So
I think I'm near
a
or
few.
slightly over 400, but I don't like to know.
So, but I want to go to this. Like, remember back in the day when we all found CrossFit, and you were following .com potentially. It wasn't released precisely at 8 o'clock Eastern. It was like around 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'd all hit refresh, and the workout would pop up, and there would be either this excitement because you just were really ready to go, or this like, oh man, that's going to be tough, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
And my point has always been, and like, if we want to use specific examples, we had James Fitzgerald on not too long ago. I have no doubt if I followed his programming to a T, I could maybe be a little fitter than I am today at 43 years old. In theory, doing an hour at Z1 or whatever he prescribes and all of these things, or other, people that are telling you need to do, all these stretches and mobility to get better. Like, in theory, all that's great, but if it's not fun, it's not going to work for me because I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do the work. So, Cap, some other programs out there, like when I see Cap workouts, that's what it reminds me of. Like today, 10x2 back squat. I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to do that. Not just because I'm good at it, but I knew it was going to be a fun class. I'd hopefully have a cool partner, which I did. But you throw out good Metcons as well, like the 3 minutes of rowing, the 1 minute of muscle-ups. Like, it's fun. And I think that's the bigger issue that I have. It's like less about what the actual programming is. And like, in theory, this is great. It doesn't work if people aren't being consistent and having fun with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that too. And someone told me once I was a bad salesman, and I said that was the best compliment I could ever get. because I think that means I'm focused on the right stuff. So it's like I'm also, I also believe personally, and I'm heavily invested in CAP in terms of like energy we put into it and the rest of the team that I see how hard they work on it. But if you don't want to do that programming, if you don't want to follow core methodological CrossFit programming, you want to go do something different, like I'm okay with that. But that being said, if you're like, hey, show me a great GPP program that's as simple as possible to implement in a group class setting, I'm like, oh yeah, I can help you out with that.
Right.
I think what frustrates me, and this is what you were getting at, and I wanted to hear more from you on this, is like there is this like self-help vulturism stank in any space, but certainly in the fitness space, where it's like, oh, hey, man, you're doing group classes and you're following CrossFit.com. Like, man, I can fix all your problems. And a buddy of mine, actually, Matt Del Valle, said this to me yesterday. I said this quote to him. I said, when someone starts thinking that, when I start thinking my influence is more important in somebody else's life than their own influence, I'm a danger. And I see that in the space, and it's like, that's really frustrating me. And Matt Del Valle was like slagging me for that, making fun of me. But I see that kind of stuff, and it's like, oh, buddy, I can fix all your problems.
Like, did I have a problem?
And I don't think that's what a good teacher does. Personally, I don't think that's what a good coach does. I think the converse of that is like, oh, hey, you're struggling with X, Y, and Z. Cool. Which one of those do you want to focus on? Great. Let me show you some tools I've learned to try and help with that. I think that's the kind of teaching and coaching I would want, and I hope we bring something like that. I hope that gets manifested or felt through CAP.
I think it is, and that is the approach that we took, and that was always kind of our kind of contention with the gym coaching space, which is just like they're doing a thing, and what you came in is didn't try to help them fix that thing. You're like, no, you should try the other thing because it's better. And I'm like, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but like the point is that that's not what they were trying to achieve.
It's like. I feel like some of those people, it's like dating someone, and when you date that person, they're like, oh, if you just let me change you a little bit, you can be the person I want you to be.
Right.
And
yes.
I'm like,
Roz is trying to do that to me right now.
Yeah. And she's doing a terrible job.
Yeah.
She said,
You're the
can you be
exact
more like
same as
Fern? She said, be more like Fern. And I said, what does that mean?
Well, that's different. That's good advice.
But, and let's use another example since you want that. Part of my squat therapy beef with Sean from Active Life was, resonated today. Like, we did squat therapy in class, and my attitude was squat therapy works, and it's an assessment tool. Because here's what happened. I was doing squat therapy. Brittany kept yelling at me for my ribs, and I know I overextend, right? So she assessed me in that moment, and it was helpful when we got to the squats. And like Fern said, it's like you just said, it's like, we don't need to change what you're actually doing. We just need to get you better at it. Part of it is developing as coaches. And part of it is also, like you said, like making sure we're helping you where you want to be helped. With Affiliate U, we had a call yesterday, and somebody's like, should I get rid of my limited memberships? And I was like, well, do you want them? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, just because we say something, you have to believe in it as well, whether it's a rate increase or whether it's something new that we're trying to implement at your box. So we know what works, but you have to believe in it, and it also has to be something you want to change, like you said.
Also, context. Or like, I need more information. Like that's it's like, hey, should I do this? I'm like, I don't know. I had that question for it. Should I do this? I'm like, I have zero information in order to give you that answer, so I'm not going to give it to you. In a hypothetical scenario, I'm like, yeah, it could work. It could also be disastrous. So I need more information. I need to see what's going on there. How are you currently doing it? What are we going to do? And I might say, yes, you should do that 12 months from now. But there's a series of things that might need to happen before that in order for that to unfold the way that you think it's going to unfold. Because if the order of operations is not correct, it will not yield what you want it to yield. And again, this goes back to application is what I think matters. When you're talking about Brentley running a good class in here, it's not shocking or a surprise that the way she ran the class is what made that class effective. Like, that was high energy right out of the gate from the WOD brief, which James missed, is that like we were moving and we were warming up and then we got to it, and that was a fun class. Perfect. And I would argue is also very effective with regard to fitness.
And perfect example. People lose sight of this. We were talking about it this week. Like, an hour of class doesn't mean 7 workouts. We moved, with the exception of the whiteboard brief, which was
the entire time
3 minutes. It was like 3 minutes. It was like, I'm leading you through a warm up. Okay, you're doing squat therapy. You're doing a set of 10 with an empty bar, 5-3-3-2 with the bail on this last, like, I felt like we moved a ton, and I had a great, and here's the thing, I don't think I hit a lifetime PR today, which I did because of me. I'm tired, right? We've been on the go. I think it was because she got me so well warmed and primed to go that I was able to do it. So, done improperly, that would have just been like, okay, I worked up to 3:15. Because she got us so well primed, and it was fun. James is yelling at me like, "That's a good workout. Like, you partner up with someone to make it more fun." That's what happens.
I'm just wondering how many times you're going to humble brag about your back.
Oh, dude, I'm going to be hearing about this in 2023. Remember that time I back squat 350
Were you
for
impressed
double?
by that?
Yeah, I thought you did a great job. Because
go.
the way you,
That's what I feel
talked
about it.
yourself up, I didn't think you were going to back squat 275. But you nailed it. No, yeah, I agree on all of that. And I think one of the other things, and I just think the space is big enough too. I'm just
the
not
CrossFit space.
Yeah, I think the fitness space.
Fitness space is massive, dude.
Yeah,
Like
I think the space is big enough, and I'm just personally, I'm not a huge fan of like hey, there's a problem over there. Oh, I definitely know how to fix that. Let me go show them. That's just not the way I tried, and I hope, God, somebody's going to send me an email and be like, yeah, that is you. That's not how I want to interact. And
no, I don't think it is.
I don't want people to look at CrossFit affiliate programming and think that's what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is give people a tool set, a roadmap to implement, quintessential CrossFit programming.
Yeah, I think you guys are,
and that's our lane.
I think and that's the beauty of it, right? Is your lane. You're not deviating out of your lane. You're not saying don't do these other things, but you're saying if you want to do CrossFit, here's some really good resources, and use all of them. Use some of them. I'm a firm believer of wherever you get your programming from. 75% at most, but you should own the other piece of you should not just set it and forget it, because it's your facility, your equipment, all those other things. You need to have ownership of it, and whether it was CAP or anything else, you should treat it that way, because you don't know anything about my gym, my athletes,
The weather,
like any of that stuff. So all those things had to be taken into account, but arming people with the tools to make that decision and do it in an educated, thoughtful way is the key. That's how you do that, right? Like, it sounds cliche, but like teach a person to fish, right? Like it's not like here's the fish. It's like teach them how to fish, and then like you can either take that one or you can go get your own. It doesn't matter at that point.
And because like you're talking about, it's like we really want to try to stay away from the dogma of like, yeah, we're quintessential CrossFit programming, but we can't learn, or we can't change how we teach you how to implement, or we can't understand your scenario better. I do think there's so much dogma in the programming space, like you talk about. And we've tried to do a lot to avoid that. Like I shot people a message out on Instagram of like, hey, if you're a CrossFit level 2 trainer and you typically scale high skill movements and heavy workouts, DM me. We have an email chain where we regularly send out workouts, and give me your feedback. What was your time? How did you scale? Like, we're taking tons of feedback from affiliates.
I see you asking that quite a bit. You've been posting more on Instagram yourself lately.
Yeah, it's important to me too, and it's like I don't follow CrossFit. I don't follow CrossFit.com to a T. I don't follow CAP to a T every single day, but I try to do it inside of an affiliate that runs it. I try to follow it when I'm not in my affiliate as much as possible, because I do think that's really important. There are days where I'll lay out, we'll sit down as a team and we'll lay out a week of programming, and it checks all the boxes in terms of variance and whatever our focus is. And I'll do that week, and I'm like, wow, we really messed up. And I think that's really, really, really important. So to that extent, I think the programming matters. But
well, that's the same thing that we preach to affiliate owners and coaches. It's going to be very difficult for you to understand the impacts of your programming if you're not doing your programming. It's just in a bubble. It's a hypothetical scenario that you've unpacked in your mind that is probably inaccurate to some degree. You should do it. And it's okay if you do it a little bit out of order. You're still going to get the data points and the information to say like, hey, like this was kind of a mess and I'm not even really sure why. We'll try to unpack that and correct it moving forward. But the point is, I know, not based on what I think happened on a piece of paper in the spreadsheet, but based on how I feel. And then I validate that by what they feel like. And if I'm like, man, I really feel like trash. And they're like, yeah, then one of your members like, I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I feel like trash too. And I'm like, okay, that's important information to know. Why did that happen? And maybe you can go back and figure it out, but maybe not. But the point is, you should be participating in it. Otherwise, you're going to have a really, really hard time producing a really good product.
That's been my view on it. And, maybe other people would argue with me to the contrary, but, I think that's a great place to start.
I can see my next post. Hobart doesn't know what he's talking about.
That's fair.
That's true.
put up there.
Like I said,
Prove me wrong.
I've grown thick skin in this role. You know, people are very honest. You know, again, and why I think programming matters. Like when I receive feedback from affiliate owners, like it seems like it's so important to them, and we can say like, well, maybe I don't think us saying like, well, if the programming matters so much, your coaches aren't good enough. Like I don't think that can be our answer, right? That's like, I don't know.
It's both.
Selling
both.
somebody a shitty car and then they crash it and be like, well, you just should have been a better driver, right?
Right.
There has to be this really nice balance of both, and that's what we're going to try to continue to do is bring that.
Well,
to
and that's where I think you guys are. While I'm sure you think it needs to be improved. Again, I've looked at the content. I'm like, the additional resources are there for that, which is like, hey, we've putting thought into this program, but also here's the things that you would need, the skill sets. Whether you're brand new and you don't really understand this, and you've gotten no reps underneath your belt, you could start to chip away at some of that stuff with regard to what is a good whiteboard brief. Like, how would I execute an optimal or at least a pretty good general warm up? Like, how do I start to understand stimulus? Like, that stuff's there. And it's not something you learn overnight, right? Like conceptually, you could probably learn it fairly quickly, but that's totally different than practical application. And going back to the application of any product is really what matters. I mean, we've all had somebody teach us something that was an over-the-top good teacher teaching us anything. And you're like, well, that was the difference, because I've been taught the same subject from somebody who was terrible, and I didn't get the information was not transferred.
But then you go home and try it, and you're still not there yet.
Right. I'm like, okay, now I got to practice. I get it, right? And I'm just like,
oh, this is a happy little tree. And you go home and you're like, that looks like a turd. It's like happy little cloud.
Right up in here, we'll make a happy little cloud.
Another turd? Like
it's true.
Do you guys have any other things coming up for CAP, like initiatives or anything like that?
Well, we just launched a feature that converts Imperial to metric measurements.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
That was a big piece of feedback.
Just for your international clients?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a huge piece of feedback that came through. We're kind of auditing all of our video content, and one of our biggest goals throughout the next year is to make sure that we provide more video content for all of our coaches.
That was going to be my only
because we do think
feedback.
we're pretty heavy written.
Yeah, but you got Todd Acuto doing it. That was a mistake.
Yeah, and that's even the other bit.
If you want him to paint pictures in your lobby, he's your guy.
Yeah, art, yes. Coaching, Todd.
Yeah, so
that's actually where I was going to go with that when you brought that up earlier. Like, it is a lot, and I think if you can move more towards video audio, it's more easily consumed. Well, if somebody was going to try to read this podcast, they'd be like, absolutely not.
Well, I saw feedback from someone that said, I love watching listening to the videos when I drive to the gym, and I was like, gosh, that's amazing, right? Because, I sometimes film those videos, or the team that's we're bringing in more coaches from seminar staff, which is really exciting for me, because that's talent pool is as deep as it gets in terms of coaching. So it's really nice to hear new voices and see different faces. But I sometimes film those videos and I'm like, no one's ever going to watch this. And then you see how many people interact with it and you're like, okay, we have to do this better.
Well, it's probably the first thing they go to.
Yeah.
Realistically, that's what I would do. I would read the workout and be like, what's he got to say? Like, what's James' thoughts on stimulus or any of that? Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to validate, is what I'm interpreting here the same thing that he's about to tell me? And I'm either going to get a yes or no at that point.
And that's the nerdiness of it. I mean, we are looking into all that. Like, we look at all the Google Analytics. Like, how long are you spending looking at the stimulus? How many people are clicking through on the demo videos? How many people are watching the at-home videos? So one of the big projects throughout the year is to totally revamp the user interface and to make sure, and I've said this from the start, it's like, I know some people are like, hey, coaches shouldn't look at notes during class. But the reality of it is, if you're running an affiliate, you probably have some part-time coaches. If you have part-time coaches, you have people who are grinding multiple jobs. If you have people who are grinding multiple jobs, time is a scarcity. And they might be studying in 5 minutes before the class. So is to make sure that like the mobile version is something that is scannable but also useful. So that's actually been a huge project of what we're trying to do, is create a tool. So again, in all scenarios, you study for 60 minutes a night, you study 5 minutes before class, you have all the essentials to give the athletes the workout stimulus and the best hour of their day, regardless of ability level and how long you had time to study. So those are probably two of the biggest things we're looking at. We're also looking at developing different tracks. So we offer additional tracks in lifting and at home, as well as a compete track. And they all sync up and run off of the daily class workout.
Core offering.
Yeah. And then just expanding those based on what affiliates need. taking a lot of feedback on that and trying to figure out what's the best way to go. So those are some of the bigger projects that we're working on there. And the other big thing we hear you guys out there is pushing our publishing date up earlier.
What is it
right now? We
A
publish
week?
Thursday, so it'll come out on today's Thursday.
Today's Thursday. Yep.
Programming comes out today, and that'll be next week's programming. So we're gonna
3-4 days. It's tight for whoever's
it
coaching
is tight,
Monday.
and you know, the more I thought about it, is you know, it's so easy to fall back on your own bullshit. And I was like, well, my affiliate was open on Sunday, and I was reading class plans on Sunday, and then you read feedback where someone's like, oh, hey, we're not open on Sunday, and I'm like, okay, so that's another day they're not preparing.
Right.
So by the end of March, we're gonna push back to
2 weeks.
Not 2 weeks yet.
Okay.
We're going to push back to Wednesday at noon, and then the next step there, hopefully before mid-year, we'll push back so it is a full week ahead of time.
Got it.
And then there's
I think that's a fair criticism as an affiliate owner.
But
I'd be
part
like,
of
yeah,
it
man.
is-
it 100% is, and we receive a ton of feedback on it, and it's I know it seems like a tiny granular little issue, but if you're an affiliate owner grinding for time,
It's a big deal.
and we go out there and say, hey, we're going to save you time, and then we dump something on you Thursday, and you're like, oh, fuck, I have 24 hours to put this together. So that's not lost on us, and that's been a big push for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was going to defend you guys a little bit where you're also taking some of that data like we talked about. You don't know how Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is hitting people, which may then impact what you program Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well, we program pretty far out now. It's all of the other steps
content
of creating content, checking that content, copy editing it, creating the collateral of the videos. And that's not to say like, hey guys, woe is me, it's so much to do. I'm not saying that, but we want to make sure all of those systems have a timeline. So what if something goes wrong?
It is
What if
a
we have to
process,
change
though, right? It's
something?
not
We
an
wanna go back
easy
and fix
switch
it.
if I'm going to build this machine that comes out with all this stuff, and you're like, hey, we're just going to change this movement. I'm like, well, there was content written that. There's videos for that. It's not that easy. So it is a legitimate aspect of the process, and it's not. I know it's not an excuse, but it is a variable. Like you can't say oh, it's not a thing. I'm like, no, it's definitely a thing if you're talking about production of a product. It's real.
And that's why it's one of the most important things for us right now to focus on is pushing that timeline back, because it probably is one of the top 5 biggest features for us to update. And then the other one we're going to update, I'll commit to this too, I'll get slapped on the wrist for it, is just to have a plain text printed option. I think we underestimated a lot of the data we looked at early on of how many people were accessing it on mobile, and I thought it was like, that's what everybody does. I'm the same way. There's still a lot of old schoolers out there printing it out, like to scribble on it, maybe change some things, make some notes, leave it for the next class. So it's just to bring back essentially a nice, easy, printer-friendly, plain text option.
I think that's
to print
legit.
out.
I mean, if you want to interact with it or write a note on there, that's much harder to do digitally, right?
Yeah.
You know, like Lindsay, for example. Like we have digital feedback forms that we give our coaches, but she's always got pen and paper. She's like, I want to do more than this. I'm like, cool, knock yourself out. Like that's great. Like, but because the end product, which I think is more what you're worried about, like that's what you're worried about, and you do some things that might not make sense, you know, until you're like, oh, the end user is what makes sense. That's what I care about.
Yeah, and that's what this process has been for us is understanding what is going on in affiliates across the world. I mean, 53%. It's about 50 split. 50% of CAP affiliates are in the U.S. 50% are international. Like that already gets us thinking on like what do we need to do differently. You know, like that's staggering to me.
Right.
Also flattering, but you know that's what this process has been. It's been like a first date all over again. Like I said, I've been coaching seminars all over the world for 10 years. Doesn't matter. You know, it's like you know you're learning about affiliates in a much more intimate way, which has been really exciting. Also at times harrowing, but as you guys know, but important.
When you're ready to break through in Israel, you come to me.
All right.
I will do the WOD briefs in Hebrew.
Oh, will you?
Well,
probably not.
I'd have to learn Hebrew first, but yes, assuming I can learn Hebrew quickly, I will do it for you.
I've done a handful of seminars over there. I know some good. Oh, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Shalom is a good. Shalom means a lot of words too. Hello, goodbye, peace, thruster. I believe it means also. So you could we can basically cover everything.
Thruster, one word.
Thruster.
Thruster, one word.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it means both thrusters.
Yeah, maybe we'll find out.
Thruster and thrust her. Speaking of, how's married life?
It's great. Yeah. No, married life is awesome. I'm just running to catch up with my wife. She's amazing.
And you're moving closer to me on purpose?
Yep, didn't tell you on purpose. Jay goes, where are you moving? And I told him where I'm moving to, and he goes, oh, it's 3 minutes from me. And I'm like, exactly what I didn't tell you.
Yeah.
He's literally around the corner.
We're canceling our plans.
I'm going to get very fit. You gonna come over to Best Hour CrossFit? We follow CAP programming.
Would love that.
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll get that going. We'll get a little double date.
That's weird because they don't program curls or any of that stuff, and that's all I ever see you do.
Well, we supplement it.
Oh, got it.
You do look big.
That's what I said. He looks thick.
Get that, Nate? Can you fit
if you
that in
didn't
the
know,
shot?
Jay back squatted 350 pounds
350.
for a double today, and he's been following CAP. So
there you go.
160 body weight. 160 body weight.
Yeah, it's about 20 pounds over what you should be.
You still got it though. I mean, you 375 for a double, and to be fair, for me that was like that's it. You had 50 pounds in you.
You think I could have thrown a
James?
a four, what is that math? I can't do math.
He did say
He's
like, I should have gone for 400. I said, well, listen, James.
But I think that's also, Fern and I were kind of talking after class. Like when you've got the 15 years of CrossFit, you don't necessarily need to go crazy every day. You did 10 moderately heavy doubles.
It's
for
more
yourself.
fitness than you're ever.
It's funny. This is something
Yeah.
I wanted to get into, and I don't think we're gonna have time. But I was talking to one of the members, Nick, afterwards, and there was a workout yesterday: 3 minutes of rowing, 1 minute of muscle ups, 4 rounds. This is muscle up.
Universal sign.
This is rowing. This is muscle up, double under. And he was asking me like, "Hey, what would be a benchmark for you in that workout?" And I was telling him like, honestly, I wouldn't do that workout for high score. But this is just going back to application piece, which I have a very specific goal in some cases. Like I've done, not to say it wouldn't benefit me, but I've done plenty of workouts in my lifetime of CrossFit, of rowing and muscle ups. Like my goal in that workout would be to not sandbag the row, but row in such a way where I could try and hold sets of 10 muscle ups, because that's what I really want to focus on in practice. And what I wanted to talk about was just, understanding relative intensity related to goals and application better. But I think we've covered it all. But anyway.
And part of that is just, giving yourself a goal in some workouts, right? Like you can't push 100% every day, but I'll give you an example. We were at Watchtower with the kettlebell swings, 21, 18, etc. And my goal became like, okay, I want to go unbroken on all the swings today, which means maybe I slow down the push-ups or purposely break them. I think it's good to have those little goals within a workout, whatever that looks like for the day.
Especially I think for people who have been doing CrossFit longer, but I will say being back in an affiliate, and I haven't worked out in an affiliate since I left my previously owned affiliate in Boston, CrossFit One Nation Boston. And the last workout I did there was Murph. I went back and visited once in between. But anyway, being an affiliate is so deceptive. Like you forget, I'm super competitive. And I said this, like, I don't care if you scale. I don't care who you are as an athlete. Your first day of CrossFit, like, I want to hammer you into the ground. Doesn't matter. And we did doing workouts in affiliate again is just like light your head. Like I'm like, okay, well, I want to work on doing like larger sets with the barbell, and I'm like, fuck it, gas pedal. Let's go.
Win.
Like I want to crush. I look at I'm leaderboarding like crazy now.
That's the beauty of coming to.
And I saw Brian's name over there, 365, and I was like, okay, buddy. And
I got you. I got your number.
That's the whole from the first workout we hit this week. I was like, I've been training mostly in the garage, baby excuses.
Yeah, you have been talking about that.
Yeah, and I'm like, man.
It's a different vibe.
And I even said to you, like, I think one thing I'd like to do is just, there's so many great affiliates in the area. Like, bounce around, like, see some different coaching, get some different, whether some are following CAP, some are following their own thing. Like, it's just fun to mix it up and get into communities, to affiliates.
I think if we were going to, summarize all of this, many of the things that make this effective are baked into the cake.
Yeah.
If we just revisit the application of it, that's where mastery comes from. The vibe, the competition, functional movements, how they yield in results, all of that stuff, it's there. You don't need to play with that. You need to play with mastering the application of it. And that is where I think solves a lot of problems. It doesn't solve all the problems, but it solves a significant amount of them, because then you have more bandwidth to do other things. You can spend more time with your clients. You can dive deeper with what they need individually. You can spend more time on the business. But I think that is really what people should be focusing on. All the good shit, it's already there. It's baked in the cake.
Yeah, that's so true. I always hear people talk about, like, how do I build community in my gym? And I'm like,
run a really fucking good class.
CrossFit isn't about building community, but if you run a class and you give people a challenging workout and some, misery loves company, and you make it accessible, the community gets built out of that.
Right.
The community gets built out of the fact that, like, oh, that workout was hard for you too, even though you use 45 and you use 115. Like, gosh, that sucked for all of us. Like, that's, and giving people access to that. You said that CAP was fun, and that made me feel warm and fuzzy because we had a little. I kind of got my feelings hurt. We received some feedback that like, hey, this is not fun. And so I sat down to really think about what fun programming is. And for me, and I asked a lot of people, fun programming is something that's challenging but also accessible for everybody in the class.
Right.
And I think when I've seen that experience occur, like you just said, it's just all the baked in stuff comes out. So
I think you guys are moving in the right direction. I look forward to see what you guys got coming up. If you're considering it or you're, on the fence about CAP, I think that we always point everybody there first. Like, just go there first. Like, if you're a CrossFit affiliate, just go there first, try it out, look at it, look at the resources, work on your skill set, and then go from there.
Just a little less Todd. A little less Todd Akira.
All right, we'll turn down the Todd. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and that's another thing we're going to launch is so far it's been you can't really access it unless you are an affiliate owner. We're gonna basically create a free trial that people can access and just see what it is regardless of who you are, where you are.
I think
you want to know what's going on.
Cool.
And if you don't like it, I know I'll hear about it. So.
Which is good.
Keep it coming.
The good news is that you have people that are listening and taking the feedback, and it will get addressed one way or the other.
Yeah, so. If people are complaining and you also see people who are celebrating, people care, and that's what's most important for us.
Well, it's always good to catch up, dude. It's been too long.
Yeah. We got to sit down and do a long one.
Dude.
I got so much I want to say to you guys.
Dude, come on.
I got a lot of problems with you guys, and I want to address
so much.
I've got so much beef. There's so much beef I have. We can once we get the studio up, I don't know where that's going to be or when, but now we're on the hook for it.
It might be right next door to me.
It might be right here.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I only deal with my issues in generalities.
Yeah,
I don't like to be specific.
I like what you're doing on Instagram and your little coach debriefs. I'll pat you guys in the back.
When he does them, they're good.
I'm not quite as consistent, but I got a lot more shit going on than Jay, so it's fine. Yeah, single parenting, 2 businesses. It is what it is. It's cool. Thanks, dude. This has been really, really fun.
Thanks,
the $200 million man, right there, James Hobart.
Thanks for checking out this episode of the Best Hour of Their Day podcast. We appreciate you listening and choosing to have us help you in your passion for coaching and affiliate ownership. You can find more episodes just like this on all podcast platforms. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us on any social media platforms, or you can visit www.besthouroftheirday.com to book a call. If you found this episode helpful for you, please share it so that we can help other coaches and affiliate owners to help build a bigger and stronger CrossFit community. Thanks for listening.